Hello, nerds! Nerds for Humanity. We have a data deep dive on the current state of the 2020 presidential election. If you're interested, we're going to go over latest polls, betting odds, and then we're going to do a side-by-side comparison of fundraising. And then we'll do a comparison of recent external communications in the form of each candidate's Twitter activity, as well as some recent press interviews where each candidate has had to answer some pretty tough questions about the George Floyd killing. So with that, let's get right into it. If you're new to this channel and you find this useful, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and like it, share it if you really enjoy it. Polls. So here is an example of the latest polls as of this recording, which is mid-June. So you see in certain states, Trump is pulling ahead for Iowa, Arkansas, and Missouri. In terms of national polling, you've got Biden ahead by quite a number, almost double digits. In the general election, that was by economists, +8 Biden. The Hill, Biden is +10. CNN, Biden is +14. Some of you looking at this may say, well, I don't believe any of that because Hillary Clinton lost and all the polls had her up by 30 points. The reality is that the polls leading up to the 2016 election had Hillary up by about 3 points. So actually, they weren't that off. In fact, she did win the popular vote. So I think these polls are probably fairly accurate. There's probably some small percentage that are kind of silent Trump supporters that may not want to say that in a poll. But I don't know if that's going to be enough to offset this 10 to 14 point advantage. Of course, right now we're still in June. We've got 140 days to go, which is a lifetime. In fact, if you want to focus on the key states, the battleground states, like we don't really care about California, we know that's going to go for Biden. The question is for these 8 states where a lot of experts think that it could go either way, what does it look like? Well, in that case, it's not as strong of a Biden advantage. In fact, in Texas and Georgia, you see a slight Trump advantage. In Pennsylvania and North Carolina, a very small Democratic advantage. And then you have a little bit stronger lean for Biden in Michigan and Wisconsin, which is not great news for Trump. So where will you see most of the action? It looks like North Carolina and Florida both have a decent number of electoral votes, and of course Pennsylvania. Interestingly enough, people always used to talk about Ohio. Ohio is not really considered one of the key battleground states at the moment. If you are watching this from Oklahoma, Kentucky, Kansas, Indiana, South Carolina, Tennessee, you are going to probably see a lot of Trump signs in your neighborhood. And the opposite is true if you live in Massachusetts, California, New York, or Washington State. Maryland, Colorado, Virginia, those are 10-plus point Democrat advantage states. And then, of course, we've got this middle. We've got this battleground between North Carolina, Florida, Pennsylvania, maybe even Arizona. So that'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. What do the gamblers think? Here are the election betting odds. Gamblers are generally thinking that Biden has a 54% chance of becoming president. Trump has a 42% chance of becoming president. That's at sort of the national level. If you look at how gamblers are betting on individual states, they're giving a slight advantage to Biden in Florida, slight advantage to Biden in North Carolina. Pennsylvania's significant advantage to Biden, stronger than the polling results would suggest. Whereas Ohio is a reasonable advantage for the Republicans, and Iowa is as well. So that's how the gamblers, they're generally leaning towards Biden, and a lot of people feel that betting odds are even more predictive than opinion polls. Here's a study done by NPR.org on financing. By the way, I should give attribution on the betting odds. That's from electionbettingodds.com. On the swing state summary, That was from 538.com. And on the latest polling results, that's from realclearpolitics.com. So let's look at NPR's analysis of fundraising. Let's look at NPR's study on fundraising. You can see that as of this article on May 20th, in terms of what's been reported, Donald Trump has a significant advantage over Biden in terms of money raised total, although it does appear that Biden did raise more than Trump in the month of April, which is this dark blue versus this dark red line. In fact, if you look at the amount raised, it's exactly $43,652,000 on the Biden sides, $16,946,000 on the Trump side. Both are spending a significant amount. Biden is definitely spending more than Trump. Obviously, Trump has the advantage of press conferences and kind of instant national attention with his Twitter feed and his flair for public relations. And then in terms of how much money they have available to go to war between now and November, Biden has $57 million and Trump has almost double of what Biden has. In terms of funding sources for the month of April, out of that $43 million, it almost all came from individual donations, $16 million from small, and $27 million from large $200 plus donations. If you look over on the Trump side, out of that $16.9 million that he raised, $10 million came from individuals. A little over half came from large donor donations. $4.8 million came from small. One interesting observation is that there's a narrative that the Democratic Party is generally more of a grassroots party. When it comes to money raising in April, Joe Biden actually got a larger percentage of his contributions from large donor contributors, more than $200, than Trump did. So there you go. It's not always as the narrative would say. So there you go. The numbers tell a different story, at least when it comes to the month of April. Now, this is a great chart looking at the total money raised by Biden, Trump, and their predecessors. So the red line is Trump in this 2020 campaign. The blue is Biden in the 2020 campaign. But you can also see how Trump did in his 2016 campaign, Romney, Obama, and Clinton. And Trump has raised more than any of the predecessors at this point. He's at 273. At this point, even Obama was only at 240. Hillary was at, looks like around a little over 200. And old Donald Trump at this point had only raised about, looks like a little over 50 million. So he's got about 5 times as much money as he did last time. And here, of course, you see Biden doing well, but not as strong as Obama and Clinton, and certainly a ways off of Trump. All right, next we're going to go into the side-by-side comparison of Biden and Trump Twitter commentary, as well as some excerpts from some recent one-on-one interviews between Trump and Biden talking about the George Floyd crisis. Before we get into that, just want to say thank you to the Nerds for Humanity members. You guys are really great in supporting this content, a lot of the tools and costs of running the channel. So first off, thanks to our Executive Vice President level, Kristen Slevin. At the VP level, want to thank Chris, Laura, Fat, JM, Sap, and V. At the hardcore level, want to thank Jekalego, Phoenix, Koa, Landline, DK, Tracy, David, Adrian, Gene, Chad, and Mike. And at the verified level, want to thank Lori, a very recent new member. Welcome, Lori. Nell, Elizabeth, Soldier, Emerald, Mercy Ann, Miles, Verily, Doris, Shake and Make, Mike, Sophia, Jedwiga, Gail, James, Hitachi, Your Mammon, Peter, Arez, Albert, Brandon, Yes, Sugar Sweet, Brian, Lisa, and Sydney. Sydney is our oldest member. Thank you for your support, Sydney. All right, let's get on to the Twitter side-by-sides. So this is, of course, Joe Biden's Twitter profile. And let's just see what he's been talking about. He's talking about the nation being in pain, but we can't allow our rage to consume us. Stay safe, take care of each other. That's in Spanish, but it looks like it's about, why don't we just find out what he's saying? using the good old Google Translate. Looks like Biden is talking about dreamers are Americans. Trump took away the protections. This is unacceptable. He will protect DACA beneficiaries from deportation. So far we've got focused on the nation being in pain. We need to take care of each other. Support for dreamers. LGBTQ. Oh, wow. He's doing a fundraiser with Barack Obama. Dreamers. Talking about race relations, about how we have to do the hard work to ensure the American ideal finally wins out. And looks like he's getting support from Planned Parenthood. So kind of mainly about the current crisis and then a smattering of many of his constituencies. And then if we look at Trump, he's got law and order, exclamation point, silent majority. That's interesting. I think he's retweeting himself. And then you've got great confidence in the V-shaped recovery, talking about the economy. A quote from the Washington Times, saying that he should get credit for the stimulus. Recommendation from Twitter to subscribe to Ivanka. Not going to do it. Let's see. Trump should get a lot of credit. This is that Washington Times article. V-shaped recovery. I think he's repeating himself. Law and order. Silent majority. Our testing is so much bigger. This shows more cases. Without testing, we'll be showing no cases. So he's saying we have more cases because we do more testing. The far left fake news media, which had no COVID problem with the rioters and looters destroying Democrat-run cities, is trying to COVID shame us on our big rallies won't work. Woo! All right, a lot of bombs there. You've got far left fake news media, so he's branding that. Rioters and looters, Democrat-run cities. That's kind of a nice little branding twist there. COVID shame is a verb. Our big rallies, which also is capitalized. Let's see. 1 million people request tickets for the Saturday night rally in Tulsa. So I would say in summary, you've got Biden, who's basically speaking to each constituency, saying, hey, you know, I'm going to support you. Well, basically, for those who are concerned about the George Floyd conflict, he's trying to thread a needle there, saying we have to be engaged, but we can't have it consume us. Then he's got a tweet out to the Dreamers, LGBTQ, Obama supporters, Dreamers, civil rights, Planned Parenthood. And it's interesting, Trump is much more kind of focused. It's pretty much one similar group, which is law and order. We speak for the silent majority. Economy is going to be great. I did a great job. Economy is going to be great. Law and order. We speak for the silent majority. Don't believe the hype about more cases. It's just because we're doing more testing. And then this one here, which is quite a Trump special. There's just so much trolling built into that tweet. So at any rate, that is Trump and Biden on Twitter. Now let's look at them on a recent video. Okay, so now let's look at an interview of each candidate. This is an interview of Donald Trump on Fox News. And I think the interviewer is going to ask him about his take on the whole protest.
And Mr. President, your response to that is different than a person of color. And I'm a mom. When he called out mom on that tape, it's a heart punch. So I'm curious from you, what do you think the protesters, not the looters and the rioters, we're intelligent enough to know the difference in our country, right? What do you think they want? What do you think they need right now from you?
So I think you had protesters for different reasons, and then you had protesting also because, they just didn't know. I watch it very closely. why are you here? And they really weren't able to say, but they were there for a reason perhaps, but a lot of them really were there because they're following the crowd. A lot of them were there because what we witnessed was a terrible thing.
Okay, that's interesting. So I think part of the president's position is that many of the protests across the country are from people that weren't really sure why they were protesting. Or I think he's insinuating that they were protesting to loot, which is where he says, oh, for other reasons, kind of wink, wink. Let's see if we can hear it.
What do you think?
Also because, they just didn't know. I watched it very closely. Why are you here? And they really weren't able to say, but they were there for a reason perhaps, but a lot of them really were there because they're following the crowd. A lot of them were there because what we witnessed was a terrible thing. What we saw was a terrible thing. And we've seen it over the years. We haven't, this was one horrible example, but you've seen other terrible examples. You know that better than anybody would know it. And I know it. I've seen it too. I've seen it before I was president.
What do you
and
say to
during
them?
the presidency, I've seen it. I think it's a shame.
So this, I think, is a president suggesting that, hey, this stuff has gone on before. This is not my fault. It has happened under previous presidents. And therefore, maybe, we should give him a pass on accountability.
I think it's a disgrace, and it's got to stop. At the same time, you also know that we have incredible people in law enforcement, and we have to cherish them and take care of them. And we can't let something like this, where you have a bad apple, go out and, destroy the image of of millions of people that take really good care of us. And then you have a movement where they say, let's not have a police department. And you say, where are these people coming from?
All right. So do you think you're perhaps...
All right. So that last part, I think he's talking about how he wants to be fair to law enforcement, and we can't condemn the entire law enforcement establishment for what he calls one bad apple, or maybe a few bad apples. So that's Trump speaking on a really hard topic, one-on-one. And let's see a little bit of Biden. I'm just going to randomly pick.
To George Floyd's family.
Do you believe there is systemic racism in law enforcement?
Absolutely. But it's not just in law enforcement, it's across the board. It's in housing, it's in education, it's in everything we do. It's real, it's genuine, it's serious. Look, not all law enforcement officers are racist. My Lord, there's some really good cops out there. But the way in which it works right now, we've seen too many examples of it.
Do you support defunding the police?
No, I don't support defunding the police. I support conditioning federal aid to police based on whether or not they meet certain basic standards of decency and honorableness, and in fact are able to demonstrate they can protect the community and everybody in the community.
Does it hurt Democrats' cause?
What's interesting here is that Biden seems to be able to give shorter answers, which has not been his forte in the past. It sounds like he's clearly taking a position that there is racism in the police force as well as other parts of society. He's trying to also acknowledge that there's many law enforcement that are doing the right thing, but he's also saying he wants to condition federal aid on minimum standards.
If there are some in your party that are saying defund the police, the president is suggesting that shows Democrats are weak in terms of law and order.
The president has no credibility on anything. He lies. He's the first person anyone can think of in modern history who's taken regular military officers and had them move against peaceful demonstrators, causing 4 former chiefs of staff to say, this guy's bad, this guy's wrong, he should just stop.
Okay, so he didn't really answer the question about the dismantling of the police. I suppose in the previous question he did say he was not for defunding but conditioning federal aid. And then he pivoted into kind of going after Trump, which, seems reasonable if you're running for president.
Congress have just proposed. Let me go through some of the elements of that bill and ask whether yes or no you support them. Lynching as a federal hate crime.
Yes, it should be a federal hate crime.
Creating a national police misconduct registry.
Yes, but as I understand the registry, the police have a requirement to, where there's use of force against an individual and or a police officer, it gets reported to the Department of Justice, so there's an ongoing file.
As you know, the cop who allegedly killed George Floyd had some 18 or so complaints against him.
That's the example of what I'm talking
Should
about.
that information be public?
Yes, it should.
And do you support a federal ban on chokeholds?
Absolutely positive.
All right, so clearly Biden's no question he's embracing the call for reform. If you are on the other side of the political spectrum, you may say, wow, he's really giving in to all of the demands and he's not sticking up for the police. I suppose some people would argue that a registry would somehow potentially lead to discrimination against police officers just because they had a complaint doesn't necessarily mean that they did the thing that people are complaining about. So, but that's kind of where Joe lands. If you're still watching this, you must have been enjoying part of this video. So let me let you know about our merch, where you can get access to the Nerds for Humanity merchandise. The bestseller right now is the unisex V-neck shirt, which is this guy, which was requested by Jennifer P. So thank you, Jennifer, for making such a great suggestion. I personally like the kind of almost charcoal black color. But check it out if you want to support this channel and sport some cool merch. It's done to be pretty tasteful. Doesn't look like it's like, you know, it's too loud. Just got the little Nerds for Humanity thing on the back. Has this kind of vintage logo looking thing. I've worn one many times. People don't realize it's merch. So if you enjoy this video, please like, share, comment, and let me know in the comments below what you would like to see for our next Biden versus Trump comparison, or if there's other data deep dives that you're looking for. I'm always open to ideas. I upload at least once a week, usually multiple times a week. And then we've got our live streams coming up. We've got Erica Simone, Blair Walsingham, candidate for Congress. Erica is a big Yang Gang advocate. Then we have our audience panel discussion. We have Elisa from Grassroots, now called American Dystopia Channel. Vermin Supreme running for president. He was running in the Libertarian Party, so we'll see what he's up to next. Kai Watson, OG Yang Gang. Then we have Dan Cruz, who is a senior federal cybersecurity official, but he will be conducting the interview in his personal capacity, not as a representative of the government, just as a citizen on his private time. We got Read My Lips. We have Enoch from the Data Dividend Project. Eric Sanchez, the PR mastermind. Josh from New Progressive Voice. And then we have Antoine, who is running for U.S. Senate and recently endorsed by Humanity Forward. So a lot of great shows coming up. Many, many reasons to subscribe, become a member, buy merch, yada, yada. So with that, I will say goodbye, nerds.